Ghosts and spirits are really popular in today's culture. There are reality shows like Ghost Hunters, Ghost Travelers, Celebrity Ghost Stories, and Ghost Hunters Academy. There are also dramas such as Ghost Whisperer and Being Human. These shows focus on typical ghostly events, like seeing full-body apparitions, orbs, shadowy figures, strange noises, poltergeists, and other spooky phenomena. People talk about this kind of ghosts so much that almost everyone, whether they believe in them or not, knows about them. But while these well-known ghosts get a lot of attention, there are some lesser-known types that don't get the spotlight. These ghosts might not be as flashy, but that doesn't make them any less mysterious or frightening. Let's take a look at some of these lesser-known spirits. Crowd demons are very unusual. Unlike regular demons, which don't seem to be limited by time or place, crowd demons appear specifically in areas with large groups of people. The name crowd demon comes from this tendency to show up in crowded locations. There is no clear answer as to why they are drawn to crowds, but some ideas suggest it could be because of the energy in those places, or because they are attracted to photographers or bystanders. Regular ghosts or spirits usually show up alone in photos, but crowd demons often appear in groups. When they do appear, they can look very strange and distorted, often hard to recognize. One example shows a reptile-like head seemingly biting someone next to it, while another dark figure is visible among the crowd standing out from the live people. Besides this figure, there's a distorted face staring at the camera. It's possible that these spirits gather in crowds because they want to be noticed. Animals are often considered beloved members of families, but after they pass away, their spirits are often forgotten. When professional ghost hunters are on their investigations, they rarely look for animal ghosts, instead focusing on more famous types of hauntings, like shadow people or poltergeists. However, animal ghosts have been reported in many cases, though they tend to be overlooked. For example, during the Bell witch hunting in the early 1800s, which troubled John William Bell's family, there were reports of ghostly animals such as phantom birds or disappearing dogs. But even in such cases, the animal spirits were often seen as less important compared to the more well-known ghosts. Animal ghosts don't just appear visually, they can also make noises and smells. People experiencing these hauntings may hear the sounds of invisible animals, like the soft footsteps of paws, or the sounds of whining, panting, and scratching at walls or doors. A vortex is a supernatural phenomenon that most people, even those interested in paranormal, may not be familiar with. This makes sense because a vortex is quite strange. It's invisible to the naked eye and is usually only seen in photos. The vortex is long, often shaped like a cigar or metal rod, and has a thread-like pattern which makes it look like a spinning screw in midair. Vortexes are known for making the area around them feel very cold. They can be confused with orbs since both move in similar ways. However, vortexes are more commonly found indoors, and they often appear as part of larger hauntings. Some believe that these vortexes could be connected to the spirits of people who once lived in the house. There's also a theory that vortexes serve as vehicles for spirits, helping them travel between their dimension and ours. At one point, ghosts that weren't alive were very popular in ghost stories. The Flying Dutchman, a ghost ship, is a great example of this type of ghost. In the 17th century, the Flying Dutchman scared sailors so much that just seeing it was believed to bring doom to their voyage. Today, though, the Flying Dutchman is mostly forgotten, except by some fans and opera lovers, and it no longer causes the same fear as it once did. What all these ghosts have in common is that they repeat the same actions over and over. They show up at the same time and place, following the same route they did when the disaster occurred. These ghosts are stuck in time, endlessly reliving their final moments, with no way to escape their never-ending cycle. The doppelgänger is a special type of ghost. The name itself explains what it is. Doppelgänger comes from a German word meaning double goer, which means this ghost can appear in more than one place at the same time. No other type of ghost is known to have this ability. What makes a doppelgänger especially unique is that it can appear as someone who is still alive. So it's possible for a person to see a loved one even when they are not physically there. Another common situation with doppelgängers is when someone sees the image of a person they know, only to later learn that the person died exactly when the image appeared. According to the myth, seeing a doppelgänger often happens before some kind of tragedy. For example, President Abraham Lincoln said he saw his own doppelgänger in a mirror right before he was assassinated. And poet Percy Bysshe Shelley saw his in a dream. No one really knows what a doppelgänger is for sure. There are many theories but no clear answers. Some believe it's an astral projection, where a person's spirit leaves their body, while others think it's a spirit of someone who has recently passed, visiting people they were close to. Unless you're German, you probably don't know much about the kobold when it comes to paranormal creatures. Similar to a poltergeist, a kobold is a mischievous spirit that likes to play tricks on people and cause trouble in their space. Depending on the situation, kobolds can be either good or bad. They are very flexible and can appear in different forms, like animals or even natural elements such as fire. A strange case in 1931 in the Isle of Man is often linked to the idea of a kobold. This story is about Geff, the talking mongoose. The Irvin family, living in a farmhouse near Dalby, started hearing strange noises in their walls in September of that year. At first it sounded like an animal scratching, but then the sounds became more animal-like, and even baby noises. Eventually the creature introduced himself as Geff, a mongoose. Geff claimed to be an earth-bound spirit in the form of a mongoose, a claim that was supposedly confirmed by the 13-year-old daughter of James Irvin. She was the only one to see Geff, describing it as a yellow rat-like creature with a bushy tail. Geff was friendly with the Irvins but liked to cause mischief, especially with visitors. He would throw things at people and spy on the Irvins' neighbors. The mystery of Geff has never been solved, and over time the story has largely been forgotten. Lemurs have their origins in ancient Roman times. These ghosts were so important to the Romans that they created a whole myth around them. The lemur was seen as a harmful spirit, a type of ghost that roams around with anger and hostility because it died too soon and it didn't receive the proper funeral rites. Sometimes a lemur is believed to be the ghost of someone who died without family. Essentially, a lemur is an angry ghost that wanders around. Like the doppelgänger, the lemur is linked to darkness, bad luck, and misfortune. The Romans were so afraid of this ghost that they set aside certain days in May, called Lemuralia, to try to calm them. But when we look past the ancient Roman myths, the lemur is really just a mix of an apparition and a phantom. And yes, there's a difference between those two. Today, however, the lemur is mostly forgotten, as time has passed and these ancient beliefs have faded from our minds. We've probably all heard stories or seen shows where people get weak and drained of energy in haunted places. This may be caused by a type of ghost called an Etheric Revenant. These ghosts are very rare and seem to be connected to non-earthly beings like demons or creatures from another dimension. They look similar to the more common shadow people ghosts. But unlike shadow people, Etheric Revenants mainly steal energy from the living beings in the places they haunt. These ghosts are very dangerous because they affect both your body and emotions. Even though they are among the most dangerous types of ghosts, you rarely hear about them, especially in the mainstream media. A residual haunting is a very rare and little discussed event that most people will never experience. To understand that, imagine it like a recording on a loop, where the same scene repeats over and over. In a residual haunting, the ghost or apparition keeps doing the same thing, often at specific times, which can explain why some hauntings happen more intensely at certain times of the day. Now, a residual historical haunting is like a regular residual haunting, but much stronger. Instead of just one ghost, it can involve multiple apparitions, and even entire scenes from history playing out again. One well-known example of this is the Versailles time sleep. In August 1901, two women were touring the Palace of Versailles when they suddenly felt strange. They then found themselves walking among people, dressed like they were in 18th century Paris. Things began to feel very unreal, and one of the women even thought she saw Marie Antoinette sitting on a grass sketching. Then, just as quickly as it started, the experience ended. The artificial ghost is one of the rarest types of ghosts in the spirit world. It is not a natural ghost, but one that is created by people. Imagine a group of kids designing a character in a video game and then playing out stories with that character. This is similar to how an artificial ghost is made. A group of people comes together to create a name and backstory for their ghost. Then they combine their mental and spiritual energy, sometimes using tools like Ouija boards, to bring the ghost to life. While this might sound like a joke, real research and experiments have been done on this idea. One experiment was conducted by the Toronto Society for Psychical Research and is described in a book, Conjuring Up Philip, an adventure in psychokinesis. The book tells how the group created an entity called Philip using psychokinesis, and the results were surprising. Not only did they create Philip, but they were also able to communicate with him through knocks and raps. They even claimed to achieve levitation. Later, they created other entities like Lilith, a Canadian spy, and Sebastian, a medieval alchemist. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!